Hello, this is my guide for the cast on crit Forbidden Rite Occultist. In this video I'll explain everything you need to know about the build, including mechanics, followed by gear stat priorities and how to craft every piece, gems, and the passive tree, including a full POB with 3 budget levels and a full written guide, which I will link below. Just a side note here, this build was made with the highest price to performance ratio in mind. We only have one 12 passive cluster, no 130 divine, light of meaning, you know, super cheap timeless jewel. At the time of making this build, my entire character was like about 200 divines, excluding the Mageblood. That being said, the POB is 3 budget levels, an entry level that is around 40 divines entry for everything, mid-budget level, which is about 150-ish divines for everything, and then there is a 3rd level, which is a post-Mageblood version, which is literally my exact character right here, pretty much. I'll first start with a brief overview of the mechanics of the build. We are using Cyclone, linked to Awaken Cast on Critical Strike support to trigger Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice. In case you've never played a cast on crit build before, these are the rules that you need to adhere to. The attack speed breakpoint is referring to how quickly your Cyclone is attacking, and the cooldown reduction refers to the cooldown reduction you receive from your gear pieces. In this build, the main ways that we do that is with Awaken Cast on Critical Strike support, and the elevated Crusader mod on your boots increase cooldown recovery rate. In the medium and high budgets of the build, you use an Awaken Cast on Critical Strike support level 6, which in combination with just the boot mod will put you at the final breakpoint of 52%. However, in the low budget version of the build, it uses an Awaken Cast on Critical Strike 5, which is about a divine and a half at the time of this video, which you can still reach the final breakpoint of with an elevated Crusader mod on your boots, in addition with one Abyss Jewel with at least 2% cooldown recovery rate. Starting off, I'm just going to hover over each piece of gear in case anybody wants to just take a quick look, and then afterwards I'm going to go in and explain what stats you're looking for and how to craft every single piece. So starting off here, I'll go over the Merc real quick. I'm using an Infamous Fallen Reverend. The only thing you really care about is Zealotry. The one with Absolution casts it a lot though, so he's very good for applying Curse on hit, and actually it's a very consistent source of Profane Bloom and maps. So I use this with an Asinel's Gentle Touch with Despair on hit. Combo that with an Anathema, and then you can have Temporal Chains, Despair, and your Assassin's Mark on a target at the same time. Other than that, you want Zealotry Aura effect on the implicits on both of your rings, and then a Zealotry Aura effect explicit on your wand. Other than that, we have a Crown of the Tyrant as a higher budget option. For a lower budget option, you can just use a Hunter Helmet with nearby enemies have minus chaos resistance. That's almost equal to this, honestly. A Garb of the Ephemeral for crit immunity, and action speed cannot be modified below base value. Calm's Binding, a Replica Alberon's Warpath. These are, you don't need these. Just use a pair of Searing Exarch boots, the ones that give Ancestral Bond, just to prevent our Merc from falling over in Reflect maps. Then we have a shield, just shield here, just resistances and block chance. The best shield is actually going to be one with block chance and life on block. Again, just survivability, and a Defiance of Destiny for survivability. Last Rites, just to block some regen. There's not a lot of great things we can take here, but you can also take something like Influence. Starting off with our dagger here, the low budget version would be to get an Imperial Skein base with Fractured Spell Critical Strike Chance or Fractured Critical Strike Chance. You're then going to roll with Deafening Essences of Zeal until you hit the other 3rd suffix that you do not have, either being Critical Strike Chance or Spell Critical Strike Chance. You are then going to Suffixes Cannot Be Changed, and then Veiled Chaos Orb. You're going to craft increased physical damage on your crafting bench, and then unveil and take either increased chaos damage or increased spell damage. You're going to finish the craft by crafting Hits Cannot Be Evaded, and then if you would like, increased attack speed quality. For our helmet, we have a Crown of the Inward Eye with a +1 power charge corruption, a Aegis Aurora with a good roll, a Whispers of Infinity Sea Glass Amulet with a good roll, Anointing Force of Darkness, and catalyzed with the defense modifiers. For the chest piece here, there's multiple ways you can craft a chest piece like this. You can either use the Recombinator, recombinate the 3 prefixes, and then finish your suffixes with Eldritch Currencies. Or you could buy a Twilight Regalia base, item level 86+, and get good memory strands on it, so say 80 plus memory strands at least. Then roll with dense fossils until you get these exact 3 prefixes. I preferably like T2 minimum, but you can get like T1, T1, T3, or T1, T2, T3 if you're feeling a little risky. And then after that, you are going to use an Orb of Unraveling to attempt to upgrade those all to T1. And again, finishing your suffixes with Eldritch Chaos Orbs, Eldritch Exalted Orbs, and Eldritch Annulment Orbs. For our rings here, these were made with thread tech before it was deleted. For this one, the crit multi is pretty impossible to get now. The best way that you can make a ring like this would be to spam Essences of Scorn until you get the Crusader percentage increase maximum energy shield, and then honestly just multi-mod it with int and the flat energy shield. If you don't want to do that, this other ring is much more possible. You are just going to spam dense fossils until you hit maximum energy shield and percent increase maximum energy shield on a Crusader Moonstone ring base. You're then going to lock your prefixes. If you want evasion rating on there for the evasion rating energy shield mastery, you can then lock prefixes, reforge defense. Or if you don't care about that, I don't have it in my build, you lock prefixes, Veiled Chaos Orb. And then you block something that you don't want, and then take something that you need. It's very variable here depending on your cluster jewels and all of the other pieces, but I needed strength and dexterity, so I took strength and dexterity. It's, again, pretty impossible to get the intelligence on here, otherwise your best bet is going to be to just slam it on there or recombinate. As for the gloves, these things were super easy. Throw dense fossils at it or recombinate until you have your prefixes, and then again finishing your suffixes with Eldritch currencies. If you do not have a Mageblood, then what you're going to do is get a Crusader crystal belt, and then you are going to spam with either dense fossils for percent increase maximum energy shield and flat energy shield, and preferably strength. Or you could spam with Woe Essences for strength, or the maximum energy shield, or you can spam with strength essences for the maximum energy shield. Now for these boots, there's a few ways you could do it, but the best way in my opinion is going to be to buy as many increased cooldown recovery rate elevated Crusader boots as you can, with only that Crusader mod on there. You are then going to Hunter's Exalted Orb a pair of item level 86 plus Warlock boots, and you are going to alt spam for Tailwind. You're then going to Magic Beast Hinakora's Lock the Warlock boots once, and you are going to take an Awakener's Orb, right click it on your cooldown recovery rate boots, and hover over the Warlock boots with each pair. You're just looking for a decent third suffix and your prefixes to not be full. These, again, are the quote-unquote low-budget version of these boots, so keep that in mind. Take what you want on your third suffix. Either a resistance or intelligence is good, and then with prefixes not full, you're going to suffixes cannot be changed, Veiled Chaos Orb. You can craft life on there to block, but movement speed is basically guaranteed, and you are going to take Onslaught if you do not have a Mageblood, or honestly, all 3 of the movement speed modifiers are all pretty much the same if you do have a Mageblood. For the higher budget version of these boots, you're going to rewind back to the step where you are alt spamming the Warlock Hunter boots, and then you are going to roll until you hit Tailwind. Then you are going to craft suffixes cannot be changed, and then imprint. You're then going to Regal Orb and reforge Influence. Assuming that you've only hit 1 influence modifier when doing so, you are then going to elevate using Orb Dominance. And then you are going to annul until you have empty suffixes besides the Tailwind and 1 open prefix. You are then going to craft suffixes cannot be changed, Scour, and then you will have a magic pair of Warlock boots with elevated Tailwind. And then you are going to repeat the process that I just talked about, where you are Magic Beast Hinakora's locking them, and then checking many pairs of elevated cooldown boots with an Awakener's Orb against them until you get the stats that you want. As for the Cluster Jewel here, there's a couple ways you can approach this. The best way, in my opinion, is going to be you have to fracture the 35% increased effect on an item level 84 plus chaos damage 12 passive large Cluster Jewel. If you do not want to fracture, you are then just going to take the same base, you're going to throw it in your Horror Crafting Station, and you are going to spam, in my opinion, defense. Reforge defense until you see something decent, and then annul Exalt Craft until you get a good Cluster Jewel. If you have fractured this, you are going to do basically the same thing. You're going to stick in your Horror Crafting Station, and you're going to reforge defense until you get T1 Energy Shield, and then annul Exalt Craft until you get to get other stats. The best possible jewel you can get is going to be a T1 Max Energy Shield, 35% increased effect, +4 all attributes, and +4 all res. Quick disclaimer about crafting all these pieces here. I highly recommend that you start with your Cluster Jewel. This is going to be the most brutal piece to craft by far. So once you get a T1 Energy Shield and some other good stats on there, you'll be able to balance the rest of your gear pieces around this. So start here, and then craft your rings. Definitely try to get at least some stats on these, because that's where you're going to be hurting for the most, the strength and the dex. Once you have those done, then you can finish your suffixes on your chest and your gloves, and you will know what resistances or what you need exactly to finish off the build. So for our gem links here, we have a Cyclone, Awakened Greater Multiple Projectiles, Awakened Void Manipulation Support, Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice, Awakened Cast on Critical Strike Support, and Power Charge on Critical Support. In our helmet, we have Discipline, Tempest Shield, Purity of Ice, Enlighten, Assassin's Mark, Mark on Hit Support and Enhance, Momentum, Faster Attacks, and Shield Charge, Cast when damage taken, and a Molten Shell, and then Brutality linked to Frost Blink so we can do Elemental Reflect maps, Precision, Determination, and a second Enlighten. There's a free slot here. You can use it for your Unearth if you are Abyss farming or whatever else you would like. Our order of ascension is going to be Forbidden Power into Vile Bastion, followed by Void Beacon, and then you can either take Withering Presence for bossing or Profane Bloom for mapping. Just a couple quick notes about the passive tree here. For our jewel, we are using a Militant Faith. The secondary mods don't really matter, but increased area damage and all resistances is nice. Just make sure that it is Dominus, so you are getting Inner Conviction. Other than that, this Cluster Jewel and this node right here should be used on every single Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice build in the game. Anyone who is not using this node is trolling, in my opinion. So get this node. There are two combinations of this Cluster Jewel, I believe, that put these nodes here. You can use the Cluster Jewel calculator if you'd like to figure that out. Just make sure you get Overwhelming Mouse. The Critical Mastery for +3 to all critical support gems is also incredibly important. This affects your Awakened Cast on Critical Strike support to give you the correct breakpoint for your cooldown reduction. Other than that, just a large Thread of Hope for glancing blows. We can also take Light of Divinity and then Sovereignty there. And we have a couple rune grafts. The rune graft of the Fortress is really good if your stats can allow it, as long with the rune graft of Treachery allows us to fit all of our auras in. You don't even need an Enlighten 4 if you were to drop Precision, so you can just use 2 Enlighten 3s and that would reduce your cost a lot. So that's going to be it from me. If this video helped you out a bit, please leave it a like, and if you want to see more guides like this, subscribe now. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I answer every single one, or check out the pinned comment FAQ. Feel free to swing by my Twitch at twitch.tv/pathofky. I'll even check out your POB and help you out as much as I can. I'm going to leave some raw footage at the end here of a quick feared and a map so you can get an idea if this is something that you'd enjoy. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Entertain me.
Our divine
Another tears. Until next time. Life is so brutal. Life is so brutal.
I spent every moment behind. Picture what I've done to you when I got
Most
out.
of my mind. Life is so brutal.
I'll help you, scary.
Stop and hunt. Life is so brutal.
My innocence be broken!
Stop and hunt. Mortal flesh is so fallible. A mouse from my might. Mortal flesh is so fallible.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games.
Subscribe now and like the video.